Let's get started. You know, what I was thinking we might start to talk about specifically is a career in public relations. And she talked at class and forum about specific things you could do to work as an intern and also to prepare yourself as an artist trying to play the public relations game. So let's talk. What do you do day to day? You're on the phone all day?
No. It used to be much more time spent on the telephone, but these days so much of what we do is done via email. That was one of the reasons why I stressed how important it is to be a good writer. That is mostly because we've taken our primary form of communication from phone to email. I don't particularly like doing everything by email, especially if I have not spoken to a writer. If it's a new relationship for me, I like to call them on the phone first. I actually was reprimanded by a writer for that, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm old school. I can email you every time after this, but I just thought it was important to make that initial contact, voice to voice, so I can talk to you and have an immediate dialogue rather than a delayed dialogue on email. I think the good thing about email today is that it's really a running dialogue of the conversation that you're having, and it's great to be able to file that in my folders for each different project, so that when there's a question at some point, you just go back through those emails, and you can't. It's a lot harder to get away with stuff. Yes, that email said the in-store's on November 20th, not October 20th. I have it right here. So I think people, it's good and bad, but it's the way it is.
It takes away some of the personal interaction.
Yes, very much so. And like I said in forum, what we do is a very personal business. Music is a very personal art form, both for those who make it and those who listen to it. Being a publicist is very personal. It's all about relationships. I have relationships with my artists. I have relationships with the clients. I have relationships with my media outlets, the writers, the talent bookers, and it's a very personal kind of business. I think the people who get the most done are people with very good communication skills and very good people skills.
When you prepare, you work for either artists or companies, right?
Well, yeah. Ultimately, I'm working for the project, whether it's a book project or a television project or an artist. I think, if I'm working for an artist, like George would hire us, he hired us to work on the Chucky Weiss project, and George is paying the bills, he's my client, but so is the artist. I consider that the artist is my client because it's their career that we're dealing with. I try to do whatever I can to make not only the artist happy, but the client who's paying my bills happy. I am accountable to them for what I do, and I just think it's important that you try to, that's why it's a people business, because you really sometimes have to manage expectations. Some artists and some clients just, they don't get it. They think that a new band with their first record should be on David Letterman. And it's managing those expectations to tell them, you're not going to be on David Letterman,
When I hired publicists for my company, what I was always amazed by was that they made no guarantees. You pay them their fee per the month, and usually get hired for 3 months or 6 months at a time, right? Because you really can't do much in a month.
Right.
So, but you can't guarantee anything, right?
Right. We publicists are the liaisons between the media and our respective clients, and we cannot guarantee because it's out of our control. The only thing that we can guarantee is that we'll reach out to that media, we will pitch the way it needs to be pitched, we'll present the artist's or the client's message the way we determine it needs to be presented, we'll do all of the things that we're required to do in terms of sending out materials, following up appropriately, but ultimately we're not the editors. We don't make the decisions of what gets in and what doesn't get in, but people hire us because of our relationships. Again, we go back to that it's a very personal, relationship-oriented business. They hire us because of our expertise, because it doesn't take us too long to figure out how that pitch needs to be presented in the most viable form. I mean, you want to make a pitch that's going to get them to respond and say yes, not a pitch that's going to make them say, why should I care about this? And they hire us because we're very detail-oriented. We do what we say we're going to do. But no publicist really can make any guarantees. And if you're a young artist and you are working with a publicist who's saying all kinds of things like, oh, I can get you here, I can get you there, I can put you on Letterman, I can put you on Conan, hang up the phone. I mean, just say thank you very much for your time and move on, because they won't be able to deliver on 80% of the things that they're guaranteeing. It's not in their control.
Now, you give your client a report every week
Yes.
of your efforts, who you contacted, who's an ad, who's going to do something, who's talking about they may do something, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, reports are not my favorite thing to do. They take a lot of time to do, but they're a necessary part of the job that I do. I think it was, even when I worked at record labels, we did reports because the bigger the record label, the more people there are that don't get to work with you on a day-to-day basis. So, yes, we do reports every week. It takes a lot of time, but I've tried to work it to a science where I'm on the phone, I've got my report sheet out, I can type up right then and there the conversation that I'm having. Have they gotten the CD? Are they listening to it? Do they still have to listen to it? Are they interested? Why are they interested? When do I need to follow up? Are they passing? And you know what? If they're passing, I always ask them, if I get them on the phone, why did this not work for you? Can you just give me a reason why you're passing? Because the client's going to ask me that. Especially if it seems like something that should be a no-brainer and they're saying no, you want to be able to have a response. That's part of my job too, is, maybe they didn't like it. Okay, that's a good reason. You didn't like it, I'd rather you not write about it. And I don't take it personally, and the artist shouldn't take it personally either, because for every person out there who doesn't like it, there's others who will like it.
You have a contract with your clients?
Yes.
And how do you get paid? They pay you up front by the month?
Well, that's how it's supposed to work. An independent publicist is also a collection agency some of the time, and it's just part of doing the business. But yes, my contracts state that their retainer is due on the first of the month for the month of service, which means I get paid up front for my services, which is another reason why we've established, we have to establish credibility so that a client is much more likely to part with their money before you've even done anything. And then again, you can't guarantee anything. So, but they know if they're hiring a company like mine that we're going to get results.
Now, if you're just working in a vacuum by yourself, and you don't have the cooperation of everybody else around the artist, your efforts are going to be less likely to be successful, correct?
That is absolutely correct. I have an artist right now who shall go nameless, but he's a new artist trying to establish himself, and his manager is just completely out of the loop. You can call the manager, they don't call you back. Email, you don't get emailed back. They haven't, in my opinion, they haven't done their job. I also have taken on a band to manage, and I consider myself a team captain. We have people working retail, we have people working radio. My company does the PR. There's the label, there's the, we don't have a booking agent, but if we did, there would be that piece of the team. And then all the other things that are involved. A manager should be the team captain. In a way, they're, a fourth or fifth or sixth member of the band. They have a vested interest in the artist's success, and they should be doing everything they can to make sure that every possible avenue is being explored and things are being followed up on, and that they're reporting back to the artist, that if we get some good information, if we get a good show, if we get some good press. I mean, I'm the first one to send it all around to everybody to keep them motivated. I think managers, team captain. Absolutely.
Now, you can do local press or national press, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're following a tour, then you're going to be trying to getting press. When the act comes to town, the press breaks while they're there. Or
Correct.
Before they come to town.
Correct. That's
talk
why I
about-
said in Forum, when a band is touring, the timing becomes even more critical because you have a limited number of days, and usually it's just one day that the artist is performing in that town, and you want to have your press break either on or before the date that the artist is there. And the reason we do that is so that the potential people in the audience at the show that night will know about the show ahead of time so they can make plans, buy their tickets, get their schoolwork done, hire a babysitter, whatever needs to be done so that they can come to the show.
That's a more expensive proposition, right? If you're following a tour or doing PR for a tour versus PR for an album as a national thing.
No, because usually the two things go hand in hand, and quite often what will happen, especially with what we do, because we work mostly with national level artists where they're putting a CD out nationally, and we first work for 3 months to make sure that all the long lead publications are taken care of, like Esquire and Glamour and Details and GQ and Rolling Stone and People and Entertainment Weekly and all the other ones I mentioned in the last session. And then a lot of times, like just as the record is ready to come out, hopefully most of that stuff will be locked and you're just waiting for your articles to come out now. And then the artist will go on tour. Typically artists don't go on tour too long before the record comes out because they want people to be able to purchase the new CD once they go on tour. So once we kind of segue out of national press, we can kind of very easily segue into doing tour press. And if we're doing press continually for an artist, like 6 or 7 or 8 months into a project, we may actually reduce our fees because I usually have a lower level publicist who's doing tour press. It's where most incoming publicists start, is doing college press and tour press. And so they're, obviously I'm not paying them as much. We can afford to cut the rates. Plus all of our press materials are done. The biggest part of the labor intensity is done. Doing the national press is very labor intensive. Tour press is too, but most of it is just follow-up. And you just have to be diligent in doing that follow-up.
Well, if you were going to promote somebody's CD, do you send out the CD or just give them a list of people to send it to?
I'm sorry, say that again. The artist, if I'm working with an artist, do they send the CD?
Yeah.
No. If I'm working with an artist, we send the CD. All of our company label goes on it so that the writers who are getting it, see that it's from us. I mean, we've established ourselves as a credible PR company with a certain kind of taste in music that spans a lot of genres, but the writers that we deal with know us, and they know us long enough to know that if they're getting something from us, they may like it, they may not like it, but they know they're going to appreciate it. They know it's going to have some kind of interesting music, it's going to have some kind of news value, an interesting story, because that's the kind of company that we've created for ourselves. That's our niche in the marketplace. And I've had writers actually tell us, they get literally 100 or more packages a week. I will open yours, before I open 30 others because I'm interested to see what you've picked this time.
It's interesting. I get stuff from one publicist in L.A., and apparently he will take anything. And because there's no consistency whatsoever to it. Mm-hmm. And I must get 5 CDs a week. So I'm wondering why I even get them. But so you're trying to develop a certain personality, a certain reputation for quality.
Right. We don't take on any, and a lot of publicists do take on just about anything. From the outset of our company, we decided that we didn't want to do that, and we made a conscious decision and not to take on anything that we didn't feel we could fully and completely get behind. And when we were starting out, we turned down a lot more than we took on. And it's really paid off. It paid off greatly in the long run because, first of all, I'm a very ethical person. I can't, really take on a project by an artist knowing that he or she's putting their career in my hands and I don't completely love the music. How can I take that to my writers and say what you need to say to be able to communicate your feelings if you really don't dig it? So that's just me.
Have you ever turned down anybody because the team wasn't in place and you knew that your efforts were not going to be enough to carry it?
I don't think so, because usually you don't figure out that the team's not in place until you're already part of the team, and then you just try to make the best of it. I have let a couple of artists go mid-project because the team just wasn't happening, and it wasn't right for us to continue to take their money and really not be able to do anything, mostly because we were working in a vacuum and we were hindered by the fact that management didn't have realistic expectations or weren't doing their job. But usually we don't know in advance, and if we do, no, I wouldn't knowingly go into a project where I knew the team was not there, because it makes our job impossible, and I don't want to fail.
Anybody here want to be an artist? Who wants to be an artist? Let's see, who we got here? Kyle? I want you to be the artist, and I want you to talk to your publicist. And I want you to, you're now engaging your publicist. So what would you like to know from her? And she's going to probably ask you some questions, too.
Yeah, you ask me questions first. That way I'll know your questions.
Okay. And that's usually the way it works. I usually will get an artist. You don't have the advantage of having been to our website to kind of know what we do. What's your name?
My name is Kyle Sharmatero.
Kyle, say your last name again?
Sharmatero.
Sharmatero. And what kind of artist are you?
I'm a drummer.
Okay. What kind of music do you play?
I play some jazz. I play in a rock and roll band. I play like R&B or funk,
Mm-hmm. Well, for purposes of this class, could we just focus on your rock and roll band?
Sure.
What are they called?
They're called Madrona.
Madrona.
Right.
Okay. And have they gigged at all?
Yes.
Where have you gigged?
We've played at Checkpoint Charlie's. We've played at the Mermaid Lounge just like a bunch of times. Both of those two. The Hard Rock Cafe, and we're also playing tomorrow at Twiropa.
There you go.
It's our CD release party.
He's been listening. Okay, so you have a band, rock and roll band called Madrona. I'm assuming that all these clubs are mostly New Orleans-based clubs.
Yes.
And where are you looking to go? Where do you want to take, what's the next step for Madrona?
The next step is, well, it's kind of complicated, and I would love to get into it with you. But to make a long story short, the next step is hopefully to leave in May and go out for hopefully like 2 months and then come back, and then either the leader of the group has to move because him and his wife have ailing bodies. They have to move to California, I think. So I think at that point, he's trying to get everybody to go with him, but so that's.
Well, let's just assume everybody goes so that the band can still be in one place. Let's just assume for right now that you're just playing here in New Orleans. Have you contacted any of the local press to, get them to come out?
We for this show, I'm just the drummer, to be honest.
Any show. And there is no better excuse than I'm just the drummer.
This is the only band that I can say that in, so I appreciate that I can say it. Is Melissa still here? Melissa is actually like our manager.
Okay.
So she would be the one you would want to talk to about that.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell you something, just because we're in kind of a role play situation. Your manager should never know more than you.
No, definitely. Oh, you're right about that. I should know. I just don't. I'm just saying that she probably would know, but I would guess that it's not. Or it's no.
Okay. Well, first of all, if Kyle really was a new artist wanting to talk to me, he'd never get this much time. He would probably call and I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just that if I was working on your project, you wouldn't want me taking, the time to talk to every new artist who called my office wanting to ask my advice about things. We would suggest that the inquiring artists go to our website. It's, for your information, it's www.bakernorthrop, Northrop with an OP.com. That's the first thing that if somebody's just cold calling us and they've been referred there but they haven't been to our website, that's the first thing that I or my assistant will ask them is, please visit our website. That gives you an idea of the roster that we have, the artists that we work, how we work them, my background, the company history, and then she will probably say, if you feel that you fit into this, the kind of areas that we handle, then, please email me. What I'd want is your name, a little bit of the background of the band, what kind of music you do. If you have a website, I would hope that you would include, please visit us at this website. This is what we want to do. This is why we want to talk to you. If you're interested, this is how you can reach us. And typically, I'll take a few minutes at the end of every day, and I'll go through the emails that I get, and I'll click on websites. There have been times when I've clicked on the website and knew immediately it wasn't a project that was right for me. We do a lot of rock, pop, blues, Americana, stuff across, sort of in that range. And if it's like a kind of a new metal or electronic or house music, I don't do that. It's not the area of expertise that I have. So, sometimes I can tell just by the image that I'm seeing on the screen, this isn't right for me. And that's another reason why image is very important. You want your physical image to match your musical image. And a publicist can help you with that too. Then if I really like what I'm hearing, I may call the artist and say, I've been to your website, I've heard the samples that you have, I've read your bio, can you send me a full CD? That at that point then we'll start getting a little bit more, we'll get a little bit more detailed, what's the name of your CD, what's your band, what kind of music are you, what's your timetable, are you, I probably wouldn't take on a purely local artist just because our rates are too high. You wouldn't be able to afford it. Why would you need somebody who specializes in national press when you're not at that point yet? What I would likely do is, recommend that you get somebody locally here to do it. And there's publicists in every town. Your club promoters will know who they are. Maybe even somebody, if there's, a journalism program here at one of the other universities, a lot of times the journalism schools will have sections that cater to publicity, and you can have someone who's working on their 400 level class, take you on as a publicity project.
Anybody here want to be a publicist or have any ideas? Jenna, come up here in a second. Thank you, Kyle. Now, Jenna, you're going to.
Thank you, Kyle. Good luck.
You're going to be talking to Sheryl. You're now on an internship.
Okay.
And,
it's true. I do want an internship.
So can we talk about that for a minute?
Were you in Forum?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so hopefully you were paying attention. You know exactly what I'm looking for in an intern.
I took notes.
Okay, good. Now you're on the spot, though.
Do you if I wanted an internship with you, say this summer, do you recommend sending a writing sample? How many writing samples? How long do you want it?
Well, first of all, I would say go visit our website so you have a good idea of the company that you're applying to. On the website, this is actually really good information, so if you guys want to take a couple of notes, this will come in very handy for you in the future for any job that you may be applying for. First of all, on our website, we have my history, the history of the company, all of our artists, which I would hope that if you really wanted to work for me, you would be looking at the different artist pages and trying to familiarize yourself with the things that make me happy. I also have an employment page where, I kind of leave up permanently an assistant wanted ad. Okay, so when you're looking for a job, an internship, whatever, you see it posted online in the newspaper, here at school, and you have the job description. You want to take a copy of that job description, and when you're applying for that job, whether it's an internship or a fully paid job, you want to make sure that you address each and every point that employer is looking for. If you go on my site, you'll probably, it's a paragraph long because I'm trying to weed out the people who write those letters to me saying, I just graduated, I really want to work in the entertainment business. I take that and I go, boom, and it's gone because I don't want to talk to them. I don't want somebody who wants to work in the entertainment business. I want somebody who's writing to me and says, I've just been on your website and I really want to be a publicist. This is the the course track that I've taken in school. I've had 3 internships at X, Y, and Z, and I'd love to come and work for your company. I hired a woman just recently, and when I interviewed her, the final question that I asked her was, why do you want to work for me? And she said, because I've been following your website for a year and a half, and I think you have an amazing company, and I've just decided this is where I'm going to learn the most. I think we'd already had a couple of interviews. She said, I've learned a lot just from talking to you in the interview, and I think I have a skill set that I can bring you, but I also want to learn from you. I hired her. I mean, what employer wouldn't want that level of enthusiasm? So you're going to look at this want ad, and if it says, I want somebody with, passion for music, XYZ computer skills, somebody who can, have excellent communication skills, both, verbal and written, you're going to go through, when you respond to that ad and you write your cover letter, you are not going to take the cover letter that you sent to the company that you applied to just before this one. You're going to rip that up. Hopefully you've already sent it, but you're going to, virtually rip it up and start fresh. I don't want the letter that you already sent to somebody else with my name checked in on that template. I want something that says to me, I've done my homework, I've done my research, I've read the ad, this is who I am, your company's where I want to be. So you're going to take each point that's addressed in that want ad, whether it's 2 or 20, and you are going to address each and every one of those points. If you can do it clearly and succinctly, even better. You don't have to bullet point each one like you're answering questions, but just make sure that you're responding to that particular ad. I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed, how many resumes I've looked at, how many more I've thrown away because they didn't do just that. And if it says send 2 writing samples, send 2 writing samples. Don't send 3, send 2. Don't send 1, send 2. My ads, if you go on my website and look at it, it says send me a brilliant cover letter, because I'm going to look at that a lot more closely than I'm going to look at your resume, especially if you're just graduating or still in school looking for an internship. You don't have a resume yet. You haven't really done anything yet. But I want to know that you can write. I want to know that you can follow instructions. I want to know that you can present yourself well, and that all comes across in your cover letter. So that's probably the most valuable piece of advice or information you'll hear in the last 3 sessions that I did, because that's what's going to help get you the job, or at least get your foot in the door for that interview.
Would you entertain a letter from Jenna if she went on your website, looked at your ad, and she wrote you a letter and tried to do those things? Would you?
Absolutely. Even if I didn't have an internship available, I'd probably email her back, because my specifically says send an email to. I even said send a cover letter and resume as separate attachments, because that's how I need to look at them. You better be following those instructions, because people who didn't do that when I was looking to hire an assistant, I didn't take the time to look any further, because I figured they can't follow that simple of an instruction. How are they going to do the complicated things? You definitely want to make sure that you're spelling the person's name right. I also didn't hire somebody because she spelled my name wrong twice, even after I handed her my business card. That says to me that you're not detail-oriented. And being a publicist is all about being detail-oriented. So it's like all those little things kind of add up. So yeah, if you were to send me a letter, I would hope that any of you who send me a letter will say, I am a student at Loyola and I saw you speak, because that immediately puts you in a different category from everybody else who's just cold calling me. If you're referred by somebody, that should be in the first line of your cover letter. Dear Sheryl, I was referred to you by George Howard. You better believe I'm going to read that cover letter, because I know George well enough to know that he's not going to refer somebody to me who isn't going to work for me, or work out, I should say. If George refers somebody to me, I'm going to know that that person's been screened by George first, and I'm darn well going to read that letter.
I guess as an intern, because you just said like the lower level publicists will work on tour press. As an intern, what kind of assignments would I get?
As an intern, you can expect to do everything from answering the telephone to mailing out our press packages, making copies, clippings. You guys know what tear sheets are, clippings? It's like if you are an artist or a publicist and you've been lucky enough to generate some news, let's say in the Times-Picayune or the Maroon, and that article comes out, you want to clip it with a scissors and paste it up on a little piece of paper, make sure it looks all nice and neat. You want to copy that with, you want to see it nice and clean on that sheet of paper, and that's a press clip. That's what we talk about when we say clips. Interns do a lot of clips. When I first started out as an intern doing a lot of clips, how did I make that mundane task exciting? I read each and every clip. So I was learning very quickly what the critics were saying about the artists who I was working with. When I reorganized the clip file at IRS Records, I read everything. I got locked in the building one night because I was there after 10 o'clock, and the janitor didn't know I was still there because I was just, reading everything through the file. I was getting my own music history. So my intern that I had over this past summer started out with the basics: how to put a press kit together, how to mail out the package. We have a very specific way of putting the packages together. How to use the postal meter, how to use the copy machine. When she showed us that she could handle those basic office tasks, we gave her things like updating the tour itinerary. What else? Answering the telephone. That's a really important job in a PR company. She really liked art, and she liked creating things, so we had her create the flyers that we would send either by mail or email when an artist was going to be in a particular city, so that she could do it all nice and neat and artistic and plug in an image, and we had her doing that kind of work. The longer you're there and the more days a week you go, the more likely you are to be able to do other things. When I interned at IRS Records, I was there for like 6 months as an intern, and I went every day. So after a certain amount of time, I was on the phone calling colleges and pitching REM and General Public, and getting those interviews set up, getting record reviews, doing the clips, and setting up the interviews, having exchanges with the artists. Those were the types of things that I did as an intern. I helped organize a Christmas party, and I was very involved because I wanted to be, and because I held a full-time job from, 8 until 2 or 3, and then I went to IRS from like 10 in the morning until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I had a full-time job from 3 until whenever at night. I just did what I needed to do to get where I was going.
It's amazing. It's great information. I mean, that applies to every job, what you just talked about in terms of how do you apply, how do you communicate with the prospective boss. I mean, paying attention and following instructions and being persistent in following what she just said. So Cheryl's got to go, so let's